So, I recently had a dust up with a dude by the name of Andrew Wilson. I don't know if those of you out there watching know who this guy is. Let me show you a picture. So, this is the dude in question. I think this is from his Instagram. So, this is the photo of himself that he considers to be the most advantageous, catches him at the best angle. Okay. So this is Andrew Wilson, and this guy, interesting fellow. First, I want to preface this video by saying that I actually like and agree with a lot of his views, descriptively speaking. He's right about almost everything he says, almost everything, descriptively. Where we differ are his prescriptions. I disagree with quite a few of those. Andrew also is sort of kind of milquetoast in how he proclaims himself. It's clear and obvious that he cares a lot about optics. He's desperate to appeal to the red pill audience, even though most of them are atheists, and most of the prescriptions that this dude has are religious in nature. Now, I will say that many, if not most, of his Christian ethics are preferable to the libtard, lefty, secularist ethics that are being followed now, policy-wise. Certainly superior to the ethics that effinists push, which are mostly lefty, libtardo, woke, secularist ethics. So, ethically speaking, his ethical system, which is based on Christian views, the Bible, a lot of it I don't have a problem with, though some of it I do. You're obviously not going to have 100% overlap. What I have a problem with is his disingenuous nature, and there is some of how he presents himself that is disingenuous because of the fact that he tries so much to appeal to atheists by ignoring the less palatable religious aspects and views that he has and would push on society and Western culture as a whole. Of course, this guy would love if the entire world was following Christian ethics. I've also heard him talk a lot about monarchy and how that would or may be superior to what we have now. Talking about how, well, you know, if monarchy got out of control, hey, you could overthrow that as well. So no problem there. Yeah, as if a monarchy that wanted total, complete, centralized power wouldn't disarm everybody. I don't know. So we have some disagreements there on a number of his views, but I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Most of his views, most of his descriptors are correct, and a lot of his prescriptors are correct, just not all. And I don't agree with all of them. But what I do have issue with is this guy trying to claim that he has been at the forefront of pushing the ideas of rights being social constructs and the forced doctrine of men really having all the power, which is total complete nonsense. Women are the ones that really have the power, and depending on your perspective, you could make the argument that women have always had the power and have always been the power behind the throne, really. But him claiming egotistically, pridefully, that he is at the forefront of pushing this stuff is total nonsense. Better men have come before him pointing this out. I was pointing this out back in 2016, talking about these issues, about how essentially rights are nothing more than a social construct. They're of the mind. This guy's essentially parodying things that I've said, maybe without even knowing it. But regardless of where he heard these things, or even if he did organically come to these conclusions himself, he's late to the game in bringing these things up. Now, I mention this because of so often he claims to be at the forefront of pushing these ideas. Now, and kind of first in a way, is the implication. Like, I'm really, really one of the first people to talk about this, and it's playing on people's ignorance. And I pointed this out in the comments section of one of his recent videos, and I was shocked, but he actually replied. And I don't know how he came across my comments. Maybe this guy is actually reading every comment that pops up, but I think it was because the video that he had put up had been posted within 15-20 minutes of my commenting, and maybe because of that he was watching to maybe address the first comments and respond to them to help it place higher in the algorithm, because the more comments that a video gets early on, especially, the better it's going to rate. So maybe that had something to do with it. But he responded to me, and unfortunately for me, I didn't screenshot all of the responses that he made, which were quite a few. It actually ended up being a whole long exchange between us that I didn't catch everything of, but I will, as accurately as possible, recite his responses that I didn't catch a screenshot of, as well as my own. No problem doing that. But I found it interesting, the exchange. He got triggered big time, this guy. He got real triggered because I pointed out that, hey, you are not at the forefront. You are not the first person to bring this up. I was talking about this back in 2016, and wow, did he respond in a very interesting way. So let's check that out, shall we? So here was my first comment on his video. So I've been correcting the Waze BS since 2016. I also mentioned in another comment, I also been pointing out the basically that rights were nothing more than social constructs as well since then. And I said, you're a very late arrival on the scene, Andrew. Very late indeed. Yeah, and this is very interesting. I've been talking about this stuff. I mean, this guy didn't know who I am because, I'm going to be honest, he's quite ignorant of the red pill space, and he is not well educated on figures in this space predating his arrival on the scene. And as much as he says he's not a red pill guy, the majority of people who watch his content are actually red pillers, even though many of them are atheists, and even though he would directly impact their lives in a negative manner if they were to adopt all of his Christian ethics, moral, and policy views if they were to be imposed on Western culture. So a lot of people that follow Andrew are quite ignorant on his full set of political views and what prescriptions that he would apply to society. If they were fully informed, he wouldn't have that many followers, honestly. But a lot of people are ignorant. A lot of people like to cherry pick what they hear and what they don't, so they can follow somebody who is saying things they agree with and that agree with their worldview and validate them and their views of the world. So he replied by saying, so I've never seen you anywhere correcting anything. Okay, so first of all, that's not an argument on its face, but if we were to actually look at this statement as an implication, what's the implication? I've never seen you anywhere correcting anything, so by implication, I am a small potato, I'm a nobody, and so, why would, I've never seen you anywhere. I'm a big fish. If you were a bigger fish, if you were somebody that I should even listen to, I would have seen what you had to say. So either he's implying that these things were never said because he didn't see them, which it's like, yo, dude, the ego on you, that you think you would be aware of me if I had said similar things, because you're so omnipotent, all-knowing, such a big fish, and you've done so much research that, if you've not heard of me and me saying these things, then I haven't. Or, I'm such a small potato, such a small fish, such a nobody, why should anybody listen to me? So those implications right there are of themselves an argument. And I've never seen you anywhere correcting anything. It's not an argument, but if we look at the implication that the statement makes, that in and of itself would be an argument. And the implication I got from this statement was that exactly what I said. Either because this guy hasn't heard of me, because, he's so aware of what's going on. He's so plugged in that he would have heard of me if I had said similar things, or I'm such a nobody, i.e., kind of a variant of the argument of authority, from authority, that, hey, I'm such a nobody that even if I said these things, nobody should listen to them because never heard of you. The implication being that I've never heard of you, you're a nobody, so who cares? So I replied that, hey, actually, you are kind of making an argument in a sense. I said not an argument, and then I replied again, actually, it is an argument in a way. The implication being that, sort of a variant of the argument of authority. And then he replied with this reply here. You don't know the distinction between an argument and an observation. No worries to me anyway. See then my comments. So I found that interesting. Pretending on his part that he doesn't see that I'm arguing from the implication that this could be taken as an argument, depending on how you look at it, but on its face it's not. He's like, you don't know the difference between an argument and an observation. Well, first of all, this is not an observation. I've never seen you anywhere correcting anything. So if this was an observation, it would be a redundant statement. I am observing myself, not having observed you anywhere. What? So that doesn't work. So you don't know what an observation is. So an observation would be like, I have observed that in hotter climates, tires tend not to last as long in regards to their tread wear than in cooler climates. So that would be an observation. This is not an observation saying I've never seen you anywhere correcting anything. No, I'm observing that I have not observed you. That doesn't work. So I pointed that out, and, he essentially sort of kind of replied before he read that saying, so first you said not an argument, then you replied it's an argument. Give it up, pal, you're cooked. And then he did his ah ha 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 long, fake laugh like he does on his live streams and talking to woke tards on TikTok and broads on the whatever podcast. Then he read that comment, and once I responded to that comment, basically pointing out that, all this is a variation of an ad hom attack. An ad hom attack is not, in my view, just a personal or character attack to sort of kind of poison the well and get people not to take any other arguments that you have seriously. An ad hom can also be just an attack in general that is irrelevant to the discussion at hand, meant to poison the well and make people take less seriously what you have to say in regards to the actual argument by essentially attacking you via something that's completely, totally irrelevant. And once I did that, and I said, hey, why don't we just go back to discussing the argument itself instead of making these tangents into irrelevancies that are designed to simply poison the well and are a variation of an ad hom, which you kind of shouldn't, not really worthy. I mean, is that really worthy of you, making attacks like that? It's irrelevant. It's pointless. Let's stick to the issue at hand. And he replied, okay, I never said that I was first, but you got to admit, I have brought these arguments to prominence, and if it weren't for me and the crucible, people wouldn't be talking about how rights are, just social constructs, and how effinism, is the same from first wave to fourth because the foundational premises, the presuppositions are the same. And I was going to screenshot all that. I was like, last night I saw this pop up, and I was like, okay, I'll respond to that in the morning and screenshot it for my show today. Then I got up this morning, and at some point I made a reply. Not only did it talking about him essentially doing these variations of an ad hom to poison the well, but I also replied talking about how essentially his replies were extremely prideful, and how by his own estimation in Christian ethical system, that's a sin. It's one of the big ones, by the way. And so he probably should not be indulging in such prideful behavior in regards to being at the forefront and being so, it's such an affront to me that you would say and point out that, I didn't come up with this stuff, and I'm in no way am I the first person to talk about this stuff, or even the fifth person to talk about it. So you probably shouldn't be acting so pridefully. And I made this comment, it disappeared. And I pointed out to him, hey dude, what happened to that comment I posted? And he replied, I didn't remove any comments. Right. And then I woke up this morning, I went to check my comments, and I was going to reply this morning, and guess what? The entire comment thread was removed. It's like, woo! So, and the reason it was removed was obvious. There would only be one reason to remove the entire thread of comments, even though this guy specifically said, I want you to be coping and seething in my comments, because, it's good for my, views. It's good for the algo, right? And I got no problem debating you in my comments. And then the thread's gone. Because it made him look bad, right? It cast him in a poor light. And he didn't like that too much. Obviously, if he liked it, he wouldn't have removed it. So that was an interesting little dust-up. And there were a lot of comments, too. But that was the gist of them. I pretty much laid them all out. And what the overall tone of the exchange was. And it was very obvious that his pride and his ego took a hit, because I pointed out very accurately that not only were these things being talked about long before he came along, 2015, 2016, even earlier than that, in the manosphere red pill space when it was first developing, but that this guy, if he had shown up in 2015, 2016, he would have never made it on YouTube. He would have never made it on YouTube because the overall narrative and control of said narrative, it had not been captured by the mainstream media and powers that be. When this was first coming about, 2014 to 2016, when I came onto the scene, when I was talking about these kind of things that he said he's revolutionized, at least implied such, and he's brought to prominence, these are new ideas that have hardly ever been talked about, that he would have never, ever survived. I got booted from YouTube under the flimsiest of pretenses. I called Oprah fat. I said, Oprah is obese. And I got booted. That was like a third strike. Second strike was something about a misleading thumbnail. And then there was some other nonsense. A first strike. Feminists, brigaded my channel and got a strike. So I was erroneously, falsely, unfairly suspended just for pointing out the very things that he's saying that he himself is pioneering and brought to prominence. Total nonsense. And it really bothered him that I pointed out that I was discussing these things back in 2016. So much so that he had to make it a point, not just to say he never heard of me, but I've never seen you anywhere correcting anything. The implication being that I'm, again, either such a small potato as to not be of any real relevance, or he's such a big potato that if I had said such, he would have heard of me, because he's so dialed into everything that's going on in this space. Yeah, both very egotistical statements, and points to his pride, which he has a lot of. And of course, Andrew, from what I've seen of his postings, from his appearances, he would say, well, yeah, I'm not perfect, right? I never said I was perfect. I'll just do the best that I can. Okay. But anyway, that was the exchange. There was quite a bit of back and forth, but I pretty much laid all of it out. I wish I had, at the time, had the energy to continue screenshotting, because he continued posting again and again and again. I mean, the guy was really, for somebody, so this is interesting. Laugh out loud, seethe in my comments. Meanwhile, projection much, I wasn't coping or seething, but he sure seemed to be coping and seething. And by the way, if I'm such a nobody, such a small potato, such a little fish, why are you spending all this time interacting with me? Of course, he would reply, well, bro, hey, I just posted a video. I had a little free time. I got a laugh out of it. It was interesting to me. It was entertaining to me. I was entertaining myself. Don't you know? Yeah, that's coping. That's coping, pal. Come on. No. It hit too close to home, as the truth often does. And you responded in kind, because you saw my words as an attack, so you attacked. And this guy, he does this all the time. It's very interesting. He does a lot of ad homing, and he oftentimes he's like, oh well, I only do it if the other person does it first. Well, obviously not. Obviously not, because you came at me with both barrels, my friend. Of course, he'd reply, oh well, that's just your perception. I wasn't attacking you. I was just making an observation, even though this is not an observation. Oh, so he didn't even know what that means. I pointed that out as well. I responded in kind. And I pointed out how, no, what you said was not an observation, so you don't even know how the English language works. And I couched it in a way that was 100% responding in kind to his comments. And that quieted things down a bit. But anyway, yeah, interesting back and forth. So yeah, let me know what you think of this guy, Andrew Wilson. He strikes me as not the most authentic individual, because again, he really does try to avoid. Now, I can't necessarily blame him. It's a smart business decision to avoid the aspects of his worldview that clash with the red pill audience that he's trying to appeal to. But he wants to do things that are extremely authoritarian, bans on prawn, things like that. Some of his prescriptors, and again, he's a big fan, it seems, of monarchy. But we don't want to go down that path in regards to, of course, you probably reply, no, when did I say that? You have talked about, monarchy being superior in many ways. So what would be wrong with monarchy, huh? People didn't like it. They could just overthrow it. He has a lot of views, and if you've ever read the Bible, this guy's a 100% believer in the Bible, by the way. So, yeah, he cherry picks. You see, he knows what views in the Bible are distasteful and unpalatable, not very palatable to the more secular, even the more red-pilled individuals, so he just doesn't talk about those. And that's where he's disingenuous. Because if he was a real genuine actor, he would not only talk about the aspects of his worldview, policy prescriptions, and ethical systems that are palatable and appealing to people in the red pill space or normies in general, but who are not religious, but he would also address the parts of his worldview and prescriptives that are unpalatable. That's why he's not a genuine actor in my mind. I'm very honest about my prescriptions and my worldview and what I think will and won't work. I don't cherry pick aspects of my prescriptors to appeal to the broadest audience. So in that sense, he's also a very good politician. But that makes him not a genuine actor in my mind. But again, I can look at his worldview and I can cherry pick the aspects of the arguments that he makes, although he does that himself for the most part, that work and I agree with. But you got to be real careful. You got to be real careful with somebody like this, because when people like this get into power, they're not only going to be pushing worldviews, prescriptions that they believe will make society and culture better, that they've told you about, but they're also going to be pushing the stuff that you don't agree with, which there's quite a bit of, that they themselves believe in. So, yeah, got to be careful with somebody like Andrew, who doesn't really practice what they preach. If you've ever watched this guy very touchy. He's got a very big but sensitive ego. He's very prideful. And in my experience, pride is often a cover and a form of overcompensation for insecurity, which I believe he also has a lot of. And there's also the fact that this dude, if you are in the R-pill space, himself got with a single mother who had multiple baby daddies. I believe she had multiple kids before she met him. And they were by more than one dude. And this was when he was in his early 20s and she was as well. So you gotta question just how based and R-pilled actually is this guy. But no, I don't discount everything he says just because of a handful of these personal issues that I view as distasteful, like that. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but when there's enough of a conglomeration of these things, they do tend to add up, and then you really do have to question what you're promoting here if you're supporting this guy. So that's pretty much an overview of my current dust-up with Andrew Wilson. I also did email him after the exchange since he seemed so interested in debating with me in his comment section. And I suggested to him, hey, why don't we debate in real life? Because he's always talking about how he'll debate anybody, anytime, anywhere, no matter the size of their channel. The implication there being he's not so concerned about money, and he's made the claim time and time again that I'll debate anybody. I don't care about size of their channel. I'm one of, if not the only content producer out there. Yeah, just like you're the only guy pushing these ideas that rights are nothing more than social constructs, and there's really no differential between first and second, third, and fourth wave feminism. Right, you're the only person to point those things out as, well, I'm one of the only guys out there that'll debate anyone, anytime. And I suggested it, and it was crickets. He never replied. And he deleted the entire comment thread. So interesting how that works out. Doesn't practice what he preaches or proclaims. But let me know what you think of Andrew in the comment section, and please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you like and appreciate the raw red-pilled nature of my content, please consider making a donation to my GoFundMe. You'll find the link in the description. If you don't know what that's about and what I'm calling people to action to donate for, you'll find a full description at the link. And if you'd like to support me more long term, you can join my Patreon, which is a per piece content creation platform. You'll also find my email and all my social media links in the description, so check all that out. Follow me on all my other social media platforms. And on that note, I'm out of here. I am the Realist Philosopher, also known as the MGTOW Philosopher, and I wish you all a good and pleasant day. Take care.